Guys, what is up? How's it going? Today we are going to be talking about everyone's favorite new TCG, Metazoo. Metazoo launched a while ago, and while I realize that I have a couple of videos where I talk about Metazoo and open some Metazoo product, I really haven't talked about kind of the overall, my thoughts and feelings about Metazoo as a whole. And now that it's kind of come out, there's been 3 sets so far, plus a second edition set. I thought now might be a good time to give like my actual honest opinion and thoughts on Metazoo as a whole. I'm just going to do the old classic breaking it up by pros and cons. I'm sure some of the pros will bleed into cons. We'll just kind of work our way around, but I'll try and keep it as structured as possible so you guys get a full understanding of what's going on. I think we should start with the good stuff. I actually really like the art style of Metazoo. I like that it has like this whimsical sort of childlike feel, but a lot of times the artworks are actually really gruesome and disgusting because some of the cryptids are actually terrifying, especially you can see that in the Nightfall set. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Garbage Pail Kid vibe where like the kids were so cute, but they're always doing disgusting things. And I really like the hollow pattern. The hollow pattern reminds me of like really old school like WotC, except it stands out a lot more. And a lot of times the hollow patterns will be kind of stylized. So something like, I think a Nightfall, or maybe it was just the Halloween promos, but they had little like ghosts and stuff in the hollow pattern that I thought was really cool. They can do like themed hollow patterns for whatever particular like promos they have coming out. Like I think the Christmas promo had Christmas trees in it. And I just find that really interesting. Let's talk about cryptids. I actually really like this idea. The public domain cryptids, kind of like those monsters that you'd always heard about growing up, like Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster. They're in stories and stuff, but you never knew if they're actually real. Those things are cryptids. I didn't know until Metazoo came out that they had a name, that they were called cryptids. Some of these monsters are really famous and they have different backstories, and it's kind of cool because each state or each country kind of has their own level of cryptids, like Chupacabra and Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot and all that stuff. So some of the cryptids are more like country, some of the cryptids are more just in particular states, like the New Jersey Devil, for instance. There's kind of a little bit that you can attach to depending on your location as well, which I actually find to be pretty awesome and pretty interesting. And there's lots of other potential avenues that they can go. I know that I think the next set is UFO, so that's going to be like an alien based set, I'm assuming, some sort of UFO Area 51 style set. They could also do at some point like a Japanese style yokai set and do a bunch of yokai monsters from over in Japan. You could go into a whole bunch of different like traditional monsters from different areas of the globe and bring those into the set. So it's really, because it's the public domain and because there's so many different avenues, I feel like it'll always feel fresh and they'll never run out of cryptids or monsters coming from these different places. It also allows you to have a really established theme per set. At this point, I've really enjoyed the fact, wilderness has a theme. It's got Bigfoot and other things that you'll find in the wilderness. And then you had Nightfall, which is more like the darker sort of Halloween style theme with the scarier cryptids. And then you had just Cryptid Nation, which was just an overall general cryptid set. So each of the sets so far, especially with UFO, obviously, will have like Area 51, aliens. They can have really specific identities because they can pick and choose these different areas and countries to really root a set into. Another thing I like about Metazoo is its release structure. So I really like the fact that when a set first comes out, you get the first edition version of it. So we've seen first edition Cryptid Nation, first edition Nightfall, and first edition Wilderness at this point. And then months after those sets come out, there will be a second edition where you will be able to kind of open it, and there won't be as much stonkage in the second edition as there is a lot of times in the first edition. So Cryptid Nation first edition came out, there was a lot of stonkage immediately. People saw like how expensive the Kickstarter sets were going for, and they bought into first edition, and then the prices of those boxes, because there was only 25,000 of them, went up pretty quickly and were pretty like, you weren't really going to buy an open at like $800 a box unless you were a crazy person, in my opinion. So you kind of had to wait for second edition to come around, and that was a big point of contention for a lot of people. Was it was kind of unavailable. the product in the beginning was unavailable, and it was tough to get cards for players to be able to actually begin to learn and play the game because people were stonking so hard in the first Cryptid Nation set. So I actually like that they have this first edition and then second edition. It's very reminiscent of Pokemon with the first edition unlimited, but it allows you to kind of stonk into the first edition. You can buy stuff, keep it sealed, whatever, and then you can have fun in the second edition. You can open stuff up, create decks to play, or fill out binders and stuff with the second edition. I already touched on this a little bit, but I like that they have transparency around the print runs. That's something that Pokemon and people in Pokemon have wanted forever, is more transparency around how much product was actually sold or printed, because you don't know how rare what you have actually is if you don't know how much of it was actually printed in the first place. That's something that Metazoo is doing. They're being very transparent about their print runs. I actually really like seeing that the tournament scene is continuing to grow. It seems like they have had pretty regular tournaments. As far as I know, the turnouts of those tournaments have been okay. And then coming up soon, I think they're having like a $250,000 prize pool tournament in Dallas Comic-Con or something like that. They might have already had it, honestly. That's a massive prize pool for a tournament like this. So it would be cool if more people became aware of it. More people started picking up some of the second edition Cryptid Nation or getting into Wilderness or something, and I would like to see this continue to grow. But now we have to talk about some of the cons, some of the things that I didn't like about it when it first came out and still don't like about it today. So when I bought my first edition Cryptid Nation box way back when they first came out, I thought, you know what I'll do? I'll buy one of each first edition box, just keep sealed in my collection. I'll open and enjoy the second edition, and I'll try and keep up with the promos. Well, that was a joke. There's no way in hell you can keep up with the promos for Metazoo. They print way too many promos. I know some people are going to be like, how in the hell could you have too many promos? Seriously, every time Mike Waddell goes to the bathroom and takes a shit, they think of and print another promo. I feel like every single week they're putting out promos, and it's so impossible to keep up with them that I've just stopped. I just think there's way too many. I think it makes them a lot less special if every time you turn around there's a new promo. And I think it just loses its luster. They've even talked about like, wouldn't it be great if every time you graded a card with PSA you got a promo? It's like they want to give people so many promos. It's absolutely nuts, and I can't keep up with them. So their release of Metazoo was kind of done in a very backwards way. And it feels, because of that kind of backwards release, it feels artificially presented, I guess, where they started with the card games and now they're trying to build out more of like a universe with supplemental materials. So we got the card games, we're a few sets into the card games, but now they have like a comic book series that they're putting out to try and put like an actual story together. It is fair to say that a lot of these cryptids already have stories behind them, and if you can go online, you can research them, all that stuff, but it's not necessarily, I mean, there's cryptids that we know, but then there's also going to be a storyline that they have characters for, and cryptids will interact with their characters in the stories as well. So it'll kind of be interesting how that plays out, how some people are really into cryptids, and maybe they know a lot about like Bigfoot's story or the Loch Ness Monster story or stuff like that. And if that doesn't align well with how Metazoo puts together their cryptid storylines, then I wonder how that will work. If people will get frustrated about that, or if they will accept it with open arms, or how it will work. I hope that they're able to put together either like a kids show on Netflix, or some sort of supplemental like story material to get you invested, not only in the characters that they create, but the cryptids also. Like, hopefully the cryptids become actual characters, sort of, and those characters can take on a personality of their own, and you can enjoy them for what they are, not because you're told to enjoy them, if that makes sense. And that goes into kind of the start, like Mike Waddell is the creator. He kind of told everyone that Mothman was going to be the Charizard of Metazoo, right? And that felt weird, because Charizard is very much, he's not necessarily Pikachu, right? You could say that Pokemon made Pikachu the mascot and kind of forced people to like Pikachu and forced Pikachu to become popular because Pikachu's the mascot, right? Like, that makes sense. But in terms of Charizard, Charizard kind of became what he is because of those first games. He was on the box. I had Pokemon Red as my very first Pokemon game. There's a reason why Charizard is popular. He's one of the first starters you could choose. You have a lot of emotional, nostalgic connection to him if you chose him as a starter back in the day. And also in the anime, he has one of the best storylines of all of Ash's Pokemon from that first Kanto series and it paralleled the games very well. So it was all like combined in a great way to make Charizard very popular even in the TCG. This didn't have that. This just had the creator saying, this guy's the Charizard of Metazoo. And that feels way less natural and way more artificial to just be told what you're supposed to like, be told what's supposed to be popular, instead of things just becoming popular on their own because of the great supplemental materials you're putting together to make them popular. I do think it was interesting for Metazoo to jump into partnering with very investment heavy TCG channels from the get-go, like Alpha Investments, for instance. I think that brought that investment mentality right into it from the beginning. And that's why, in a way, we saw all of that stonking very early on Metazoo First Edition, and why First Edition shot from, $150 a box to $1,000 a box in the matter of weeks is, I think, when they pushed so hard into those investment channels, and those investment channels then started talking to their patrons about it, talking about it on their channel, saying it's the next big thing, saying that this is going to blow up, all that stuff. People then got into this frenzy where they were like, they wanted to get there first. They wanted to buy a first edition box. Hell, it worked on me, but luckily I bought in at $200. It then became unavailable very quickly for everyone else, which I think also fueled a lot of the animosity that there was early on for people who were interested in it, but weren't going to spend an insane amount of money to open the product. So you had a large amount of time where Metazoo was out, but people couldn't actually get it because it had ballooned so much in price that you couldn't actually just open it and enjoy it. Then it became a logistical problem where they had to figure out how to get the next set out, how much more to print for the next set, and then how fast was that second edition of Cryptid Nation going to be coming out? Was it fast enough that people still cared, or if they were just so mad that they were just going to leave? And that extreme negativity and the amount of speculation and the amount of stonking, I think, just fueled itself. I think it just fueled itself from the beginning. And again, it didn't really feel like it had much of a natural progression to it. It didn't just like hit the market and then kind of start going up. It was like from the beginning, people were in it for investment, period. And it skyrocketed from the start. Which felt much less natural than if it had gone like on a normal trajectory forward. Instead, it started up here and is kind of coming down and, doing its thing. So that was very weird. I think it fueled a lot of the negativity you can see from fandoms from other TCGs like Pokemon people and, Digimon and Magic, who may have been interested at the start, but got immediately pissed off when they couldn't buy the product when it was released because of the amount of stonking that was happening early on. Now I think they're going to have a really hard time after they pissed all those people off. How are you going to get them to come back? That's going to be extremely difficult, and it may just never happen. The last thing that feels a little obnoxious, I'm just going to put this out there, a lot of like numbered stuff. Like it seems like they're trying to make all of it collectible, investable in some way. Even their stuffed animals are like limited edition or numbered, have serial numbers or something. The plushies do. The plushies have like they've got promos, they've got box toppers, they've got cards in the set, they've got their tops cards that are numbered, they got plushies that are numbered. Like they have all these serialized things too. It's like they're trying so hard to balance the investable collectible nature of it with the actual playable nature, but I feel like investable collectibles way up here and playable like the casual part of the market is just like being left behind. And I could be wrong, but it just kind of seems that way with that sort of mentality, kind of pushing everything as a collectible, everything is investable, everything is numbered, everything is serialized. It has that feeling to it. So I don't know. Let me know in the comments. What do you think of Metazoo? So far, I think it's pretty interesting. I would like to open more of it. I probably will open more of it when it comes to the second editions. But yeah, let me know, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.